Welcome to this GBO interview. I'm joined today by Johanna Holldack. She is a member of our Berlin chapter, and she's the CEO and founder of Kupando. Johanna, welcome.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us a bit more about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Okay, I can do that. Actually, my life started, I grew up in a hospital. So that already gave my life a certain direction. I went to medical school, obviously, after that, after growing up. And I became a pediatric oncologist. I specialized in cancer in children. And I worked for many years, 10 years or so, in the university hospital and specialized. And then I changed career paths a little. I decided I wanted to do some more research. And I had a grant from the German Cancer Society and spent 2.5 years in Boston at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Then I moved back to Germany. But then I decided, despite the fact that I had a lifetime position at the university, I resigned from that lifetime position, and my father was in deep shock that somebody would, resign from a position like this. And I joined the pharmaceutical industry. And despite the fact that lots of people said that I made a big mistake, I don't think I made a mistake. And I had the opportunity to work in many countries on many different programs. And my whole career was very much focused on infectious diseases and cancer. And so I became first chief operating officer of a company in Munich that we took public. And then I was CEO of several biotech companies that we all exited and were acquired by, for instance, Roche. In the last couple of years, I was very much focused on immune stimulatory drugs, and I was CEO of a company in Switzerland. And then I went to Los Angeles, and 3 years ago I came back to Germany, and since I'm a little bit of a homeless person, I've lived in Germany, in Denmark, in Switzerland, in the United States 3 times, and in Boston, in San Francisco, and in Los Angeles. I came back to Berlin after many, many years, and then I hadn't been here for, I think, 30 years, and it was a completely different location without the wall and all the, innovation and craziness going on. And since then I'm in Berlin. Mm-hmm.
That is such a good CV for starters. So can you tell us why and when did you join GBO?
Yeah, so see, because I was a little homeless, I came to Berlin. I have some relatives and I have some school friends, from ages ago. But then I thought, and I have friends all over the world. And so you approached me, actually, you sent me through LinkedIn an invitation, and I thought, maybe that's a good idea to meet some people in the area. And a year and a half ago, I joined the organization, and I went there for the first time. And I'm not so good in socializing, and I was a little shy, but then it was so much fun. And what I liked, I have attended several virtual and actual face-to-face meetings. And what is really so fascinating about the organization is that you hear these stories. And, always my story was always a little different from what everybody does. And my colleagues, they stayed in the hospital or in the private practice for all their life. And they always looked at me and said, I felt always like a bit like an outsider. But at GBO, people, or everybody I met, the guests and the members, they have all these really interesting stories to tell. So I enjoy that very much always. And I hope that soon we will be able to meet again. And I must say I made some very interesting contacts from a professional point of view as well. And I was introduced actually to an epidemiologist, and we had some really nice conversation. And the funny thing was, I called her in like March, April at the beginning or at the pandemic. And I said, "How are you?" And she said, "I'm in paradise. All my life I've been dreaming to experience a pandemic." And I said, "You know what? Your perspective of the world is slightly different from what most people experience, you know." But she was so excited. Yeah, so that was very interesting. And we had some good scientific discussions, and I met some really wonderful people. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, what I would hope, or what I would hope is that people who decide to fund a new entity, a new company, that they get some encouragement from other people who have done it, and that they, you know, can support each other and give some advice, because, you know, setting up a new entity is a challenge, and it's sometimes tough. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting, Johanna. So in my introduction, I mentioned that you founded Kupando. Can you tell me a bit more about the company? What is it about, what you do, and how are you helping society or research move forward?
You know, when you treat cancer, you do, for instance, chemotherapy. And I, as I said, I've treated patients for many years, and I always had the feeling that the chemotherapy is so very toxic. Yes, of course, you treat the tumor, but you do so much damage. And the same is true for the surgery and the irradiation. And so over the last 15 years, we started to understand more that the human body, and actually animals as well, have a defense mechanism that we inherit and that we all have, that helps us to defend our body against viral infection, bacterial infection, and cancer cells. And actually, a German professor, she was awarded a Nobel Prize for identifying the structures that lead to activation of this immune system. Her name is Professor Nüsslein-Volhard, and she identified the structure in insects. And then in the beginning of the century, in 2003-04, people started to understand that human beings have this receptor, these structures as well. And so what we do in cooperation with the University in San Diego, we have identified molecules that activate this immune system, and we want to develop them in order to fight infectious diseases and in order to fight cancer without these horrible side effects, without, you know, having such a damaging and negative impact on the body. And we have already wonderful data in different infectious diseases and in several tumor models, and the proof of concept that it works in human cells. And now we are in the process of fundraising that would allow us to continue the development and get it into clinical trials. And in the context of this pandemic, I think it is particularly interesting because when you get vaccinated against measles, you are protected against measles. When you are vaccinated against diphtheria and tetanus, you are protected against those specific diseases. But activating this immune system this innate immune system that we have from the day we have been born that induces a broader immune response across several diseases. And so we hope we can make a contribution, and my personal goal is to develop something that doesn't have these horrible side effects. Yeah, that's why I decided to found the company, and I must say I'm personally touched. We are in the process of raising the money, and hopefully we have the money very soon. But so far, all my former colleagues and friends are supporting the company with their scientific and technical know-how, and nobody gets paid. So they are all so committed to get this going that, yeah, so that's very wonderful.
That's great. So it seems that you are trying to train ourselves to defend better against everything that can happen, like infection, cancer, etc. Right? Trying to create a super us.
This is amazing that you, yes, and actually there is a specific term that is called trained immunity. Because so you got it. Yeah, it's and there are lots of studies in the context of this pandemic situation. We have learned so much about the immune system, and yes, that is exactly the thing that we try to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's great. Very interesting indeed. And I personally, and I hope that everyone will think the same. Thank you for what you're doing, because we really need researchers that move forward so we can be better prepared to face all the cancer, especially, and all the diseases that come our way. So thank you. And thank you for the interview, Johanna. I really enjoyed it. It was a real pleasure to have you here, and I hope to see you again very soon, and hopefully in person once the pandemic is over.
Yeah, I hope that eventually you can come to Berlin, or we can come to Spain. So it would be wonderful to see you in person at Monday someday. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Okay, you take care and stay healthy.